What about MDMA therapy? In MDMA therapy, the therapists are active, guiding and intervening, and there's a whole process during the experience. Why wouldn't that be the same in coaching? And I think it's a fair question. For me, the answer came actually relatively easily, because one thing is that these therapists are usually way better trained. They have much longer training, and they're already therapists, and then they do specialized MDMA training. So there's years of placement, and there's years of training, there's years of their own therapy, so that you can sit with your own emotions, and that you learned to know yourself, to your trigger points, so that you're not reacting to something that gets triggered in you, but you really, in a much more controlled way with the client. It's much safer for the client to work with somebody who's got training to this level. So that's one big difference. Not saying that many coaches don't have that level of training. Many coaches in the psychedelic field, they have a background in therapy, but most don't. So I'm not sure if most, there's no numbers on this, but if you don't, then, that's much more risky. So that's, I think, is one reason why not to intervene in the experience as a coach, if you're not particularly trained in that. And also, the work with MDMA therapy is usually around trauma. And so it's a vital part, it's an essential part of the process to revisit the traumatic experience under the influence of MDMA, because you can reposition yourself towards it. That's the whole work, right? And I think in coaching, that's not the work. If it's important to revisit experiences with that kind of mindset, then I don't think that's coaching anymore. I think that's very clearly therapy.
But I think it's oftentimes you start at another point. Maybe somebody's coming and not searching real therapy, but let's say they say, I'm not really connected to my emotions. I would have a look there, and I feel like in my youth or my childhood, I can't remember so many things. So I would love to have a look there. Yes, you can maybe think there could be trauma somewhere because he's not remembering things, but you don't know, and they are clearly not diagnosed, and they're clearly a coaching client. And if you then go there, the possibilities are very high that during that session, from a coaching client, it becomes a therapy client.
Yeah.
And so I think, from my own perspective, I see that more and more coaches in that realm already realize that it is good at least to have some therapy background in whatever, to just be able to hold that space in that moment, and maybe then need to refer somewhere else, but having more than only the coaching thing, because especially in that realms, it's so likely that they go into things that you're normally as a coach not equipped for.
Definitely, at least some training in crisis intervention or stabilization, that you can, because it's really it's really different if you invite someone or lead someone into let's stay with that and really look into it, what is coming up, or give some impulses, or you kind of stabilize the person by, I don't know, by sometimes distraction, changing your focus to the outer world, or giving something to drink, or hold hands, to have some kind of reassurance, definitely.
I think this is most relevant if you're a coach who's also there during the experiences. When it's outside, when you help lead into the experience and then pick up when the integration starts, I think that's less relevant, right? Because I think we can, it's important that we have someone in our network, that we have a couple of people on hand that we can refer to, because I agree, it's much more likely that these doors open. When a traumatic experience reveals itself during the experience, and I happen to be there, I wouldn't want to intervene, because that's not been agreed. We haven't agreed that would be done. And I need my clients' informed consent, whether they want to engage in the work where I am actively guiding a process, like we would in trauma work. So as that's happening, I'm just going to have to let it happen, and then we pick it up then. Because at that moment, they're not able to make an informed decision whether for you to engage in that sort of work. When somebody's coming out of an experience, chances are there's, a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, at the very least, a good couple of hours before the integration starts, depending on how somebody relates to that. So if somebody's had a really difficult, challenging experience and the trauma doors have opened, I would hope that wherever they do that experience, there's already help available for that. There's already someone in the retreat center who will be able to have a crisis intervention, But if somebody's coming to the coaching session a couple of days after their experience and they haven't received that and they're in crisis, then any coach in or outside of psychedelics will hopefully know how much of a space they can hold. You don't need to have a therapeutic background to hold space for somebody in crisis. Everybody can do that. Just be there, just be with them, just try to make sure that they're okay and not at risk of acute harm, and then signpost where they can find the help that's necessary, right? And if you're not trained in crisis intervention and you're completely out of your depth and all of these emotions just broke out and there's maybe a psychotic episode, which can happen, there is some risk of it. We cannot minimize it, even if we do good screening. So, but what do you do then? It doesn't matter if came from a psychedelic experience or not. Other experience can trigger this too. It happens to coaches. So what do you do then? Well, make sure that person is not in acute risk of harm right now, of hurting themselves. They're not driving home while they're in super distress. And then stay with them as long as you need for them to not be in danger, and help them to find the right therapist or the crisis intervention or the Samaritans. There's so many services available that I don't need to have all of these skills in order to help someone, right? I need to know how far I'm willing and able to go. And if I have that sort of training, then I can apply it. But if I don't have that training, then I can find people who have that. So... Yeah.
Yes and no.
Marcel, I also want to say something. Go
on.
So I'm not sure if it's a disagreement, but it's like an addition that solves the problem.
I'm happy to be disagreed with, by the way.
No, it's not because I want to be kind, but it really matches with what you said. Okay, keep holding to the contract, but I would add to make the contract before in the preparation phase, so that it is it is spoken about what to do in an emergency, and really to talk about also situations that are very, very unlikely, but that can happen. Real emergency, like a psychotic episode, or even some physical. I don't know if the person gets unconscious or something, which I never heard of at a psychedelic trip. But it's very, very important, in my opinion, to speak about it in the preparation phase. And make a contract out of it.